It's my brother-in-law's, and there's 3 screens here, and I have no idea what I'm doing. So I will apologize in advance. Welcome, everybody. Bless you.
Thank you.
And wanted to welcome our new members. We have 2 new members, and also say a huge thank you to Rick Lenz for all the years of service that he has given to our council. Very appreciative and so glad to see you on tonight. So hope you'll keep coming back because you've been such a valuable member to our council. So, but we do have 2 new members, Faye and Deidre. If you guys want to just go ahead and introduce yourselves and just say a little bit about, who you are, where you live, and what brings you here, and then we'll do a quick introductions of the rest of the members of the council. Faye, you go first. You have to unmute.
Not staying on. Okay, can you hear me now?
Yep.
Right, great. My name is Faye Lenz, and my husband Rick and I are the proud parents of 6 boys. The youngest of which is a child with intellectual, oh, not a child, an adult. Today is his birthday. He's 43 years old. I can't believe it. With intellectual and developmental disabilities. I've been involved in different types of advocacy for many, many years. It started with Dan when he was diagnosed, continued all the way through the school systems, and then into the adult world. My background is I worked for Howard Klebanoff. Some of you will remember him. And I used to go into PPT meetings and as an advocate for the families and the child. And then I got a master's in marriage and family therapy. And I ended up in corporate America at a company that did work-life EAP. And I helped them start their special education program all over the country. And then I became the VP of Client Services. And now I'm retired and I volunteer at Favor. I'm a member of their board, among other things. So I'm very happy to be here.
Welcome, Faye.
Thank you.
Very happy to have you here. Deirdre? We have to have you unmute too. Yep.
Try the space bar or hover over a little microphone symbol that will show up either in the bottom of your screen or maybe in the top right. If you hover over the bottom, it may show up there. Hover with your mouse.
There we go. There we go. Can you hear me now?
We sure can.
Okay, sorry about that. My name is Deidre Dalton Toole. I got married. I just kept my Dalton and added the Toole, and it kind of confused everybody, but I go by Deidre Toole mostly. And I grew up in West Hartford, one of 9 kids. I have a brother who is disabled, multi-disabilities. Growing up with him without really a lot of knowing about DDS way back then was kind of a challenge. So kind of became a special ed person without even knowing it. So went to school, long story. I can get into all the different jobs I had, but I ended up in getting my master's in preschool special needs and a master's in education, and ended up in Stonington Public Schools in 1985. I tried to retire a couple of years ago, but they hired me back, and I now am a part-time special education transition counselor. And I've spent most of my, I would say, the past 20 years working with individuals, many of them with DDS, and been so impressed with DDS and how much they've done for my individuals and their families. I can't tell you how much I appreciate DDS and how much they've changed lives and are continuing to change lives in a really supportive way. And so what I've done is I got to know all these wonderful families and, really love their children that I worked with for many years, and a lot of work study programs, community classroom programs that I started in Stonington, Mystic Aquarium, Mystic Seaport, many businesses in our town. These individuals, as Faye was saying, they became adults. And now I love them and their families and still am close to them. So I couldn't say goodbye. So I started a lot of adult with disability recreational social programs at night and the evenings that I volunteer with. And those are at Mystic Aquarium. I do one with Human Services in Stonington, Denison Pequot Nature Center in Stonington, our local library. So my husband's always like, where are you going now? And I'm really going to see all my individuals who I've become really close to and their families. So I do a lot of adult programming. I've also learned as adults what their needs are. And that's really why I was interested in doing that, is because much as DDS has done a beautiful job, I still see the struggles that a lot of these aging parents are going through, and the challenges that they are having, worried about their young ones who they consider still children in some ways, who are looking for housing, looking for social opportunities, looking for friends, looking for jobs. And then luckily enough, I had worked for years in Mystic Aquarium with community classroom programs, and they asked me if I would be willing to create a new job with them. And a year ago, I started working with Mystic Aquarium, and it's kind of getting bigger every day, but I am a disability advocate and accommodations coordinator for Mystic Aquarium. And we just started a year ago in adults. It's called the Sea Life Inclusive Volunteer Program for Adults with Disabilities. I was there all day today with 3 new groups. They're coming in and they're doing safety sweeps and clean team. And we do special guest hosts at the Sea Lion Show. And we have, just a myriad of jobs that are really, really wonderful. And these groups are all meeting each other, which is kind of neat. So that's kind of my passion, is just finding a place in our community. Every community is different. Stonington is Mystic is a unique community. Transportation is a challenge, but trying to find jobs, places for them to socialize, and also the challenge of housing, as you all know, is a real challenge. So I'm thrilled to be here. I'm just going to listen a lot today. I'm in touch with all my parents and all my individuals on a weekly basis, if not daily basis. I have one young man who sends me texts of trains every day and has for the past 10 years. I told him he can't do it after 10 o'clock at night. So I have a lot of a passion for what I do, and I'm thrilled to be here.
Wonderful. Welcome. Very happy to have you on. All right. I'll start very quickly and be brief. Patty Silva. I live in Wethersfield with my husband, and I have 3 children who are all adults. My oldest, Liliana, lives out in Norwalk, and she started out as a special ed teacher, and she is now a DDS case manager out in Norwalk. And my son Manny lives out in San Diego right now. He is a physical therapist. And my youngest Bella, who is 25, lives at home with us currently and attends FAVAR and is starting to, really venture out into the adult world. And so we have lots of hopes and dreams for her. And it's been a wonderful ride, and I've been on the council on and off for ever. But I've learned so much from everybody here, and it's been a fantastic experience. And you guys are among the best people, and I'm grateful for you all. So, all right, Adrian, why don't you go ahead?
Hello and welcome back to Faye, and welcome to Deirdre. I'm Adrienne Benjamin. I live in New Britain. My 28-year-old daughter has profound nonverbal autism and I'm very grateful, she gets services from HARC, both a day program, and she lives in a group home in Wethersfield. I also have a 34-year-old son, which I can't believe he's 34, but anyway, who works through Marrakesh, helping foster kids. Actually, it's not an IDD population. He works with foster kids that are aging out of the foster care system. And I've been on the council for a while. I sort of lost track of how long it's been, but it's been a fabulous experience, and I'm very grateful for this opportunity. Advocating a lot at the legislature and starting to do some more federal advocacy, because it's all important. Because there's a lot of, as good as things are for some of us, there's a lot of unmet needs, and that's my priority. So, welcome.
Christine, our vice chair, would you like to go next?
Sure. I'm Christine Hainsworth Strauss, and happy birthday, Danny. Please tell us. I have 4 children, 3 of whom are with the DDS. The eldest, who is with FAVAR and works there and has his own business, his art business. He's an artist who's a painter, and he has his cards in Whole Foods. He's had his business for over 12 years. Then I have another son who's just bought a house and moved, just got married last year at this time. So that was fun moving crew. I have a daughter who is 29, who's with Faber and works there in the thrift store laundry. And I have a son who works at Futures, who's my youngest, and he works as a chef and barista in the Hospital for Special Care Cafe, and has recently learned to take Uber back and forth from work from time to time. So yay, so it opens up other employment opportunities for him. And looking forward to a time when 2 more are out of the nest. Then I feel like I can do even more meetings and more advocacy. Beware.
All right. Thank you, Christine. Pam, would you like to go next? I'm kind of going in order of how you are in my,
I'm
Hollywood squares.
I'm Pam Donaroma, and I swore I would never work in the disability field. I grew up with 10 deaf relatives. My parents became disabled when I was in high school. My father had a brain injury. And it felt like going into the family business. And here I am. I'm the founder of Futures, and I'm also a guardian of a young girl with some very challenging behaviors. And she has done an interesting in and out of the emergency room lately in the psychiatric ward. And I have to say, DDS was amazing, and as somebody who, does this professionally, I couldn't have done it without the team from DDS. They just really stepped up, and her case manager is like phenomenal. So I'm very grateful for the support that DDS has, because I see myself as a kind of have a strong background, and for me it was really challenging. Just one comical thing. I went to pick her up. I'm 5'1", and I'm going to be 69 years old. And I went to pick her up at the emergency room, and there were 2 security guards and a male nurse because they were afraid of her. And I'm thinking, they're giving her to me, and they say they can't work with her because she's too challenging. And so anyway, the system needs some support, but DDS was great. And I did bring Damien with me. So that was helpful.
Thank you, Pam. Kevin Zingler.
Hi, my name is Kevin Zingler. I am the past chair of the council. Been on the council for many years, and want to welcome the 2 new colleagues to this board and council. I'm also the executive director for Mark Inc. of Manchester. We support people with intellectual disabilities in the greater Manchester area, about 24 towns east of the river. I've been with Mark for 30 years. Actually, 30 years will be next year. So coming up on that milestone. But it's been a great organization, and just a great life-changing experience to be able to help and support the individuals through DDS and in partnership with DDS. So grateful to be here, and welcome aboard, and look forward to working with you. Thanks.
Thanks, Kevin. Nicole, would you like to go next?
Sure. My name is Nicole Milo. I am a mother of 5 children, 21. My oldest is 21. He has profound nonverbal autism, and some dual diagnosis and medical complexities. And I would say that has really given me quite a broad view of going through different types of services for him, and then finally really seeing him be able to thrive, which has been quite a journey over the last 18 years. I have 2 daughters that are 19, both in college. And then I have a 11-year-old son, and a 10-year-old is our youngest. I would say that beyond just being on the council, which I'm very grateful, I'm also fairly new over the last few months. I come from a family of entrepreneurs, business owners in our local community for many years. I have a real passion for being connected to my local community. I'm in Northwest Connecticut, so it's kind of far from you in Mystic. And I really am excited about some new solutions for the more profound and the higher level of need that I'm hopeful that are on the horizon. I'm just looking forward to getting to know everybody here on the council even more.
Great. Thank you, Nicole. Diana,
Hi, am I on?
you're on.
Okay, good. My name is Diana Manone. I live in Woodbury, Connecticut. I loved hearing your backstories, new members. I can relate with you, Deidre. I also had a brother. He was born 10 years after me. He was the baby of our family, and he was quite profoundly disabled. And this is back before we had a lot of services. And so my parents were part of a group where there was no transportation, there were no programs, but we got him into a program at a regional center at a pretty early age. And I always wanted to be a teacher, but when I realized that there were people with special needs who needed teachers, I too went into special education. And so I got a job at Southbury Training School back in the 70s. And the year after I went there, and I actually lived there because I was an itinerant teacher at that time and had to drive up to Norfolk, Connecticut, as well as at Southbury. He came to live there. So he lived there for 40 years. And now even though he's passed on, I advocate for the people from the Southbury Training School. I'm Switzerland. I'm neutral. I see both sides of community placement as well as the congregate setting. There are a few people left that are very aged at the training school, and we're hoping that they can live out their lives there. I'm on the board of trustees for the training school, and as that, I am the representative of the board of trustees on the DDS council, as well as our home and school association. It's a parent and friends, well, mostly siblings now. The parents are mostly gone. So I'm on that council, on that association as an emeritus member. Um, I retired after 33 years. I tutored for a while, and I am retired. My daughters are grown and married and live in Rhode Island and in Massachusetts. So that's my story, and welcome.
Thank you, Diana. Adriana.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Adriana Ramirez, and I'm relatively new as well. I don't know how many months now, but I know it hasn't been a year yet. And welcome to everyone that's new. I came to the council with connection to family with various disabilities and special healthcare needs, including my mom, who also became disabled relatively younger than I am right now, which is interesting because you're young, you see your parents and you're like, oh, they're older and I'm her age. And I'm like, oh, she was so young. But with that experience and then also being a daughter of a single mom, immigrant, helping with language and things early on, I would advocate for my community. And then with her disability and my sister and then other family members, it just becomes kind of like part of who you are naturally, whether you're a sibling, a friend, a family. Certain situations bring you to that natural advocacy role. And then when I have the opportunity in my adult life, I started working with Connecticut Family Support Network, finding a way how I can support community again. And I just recently also became executive director. So I'm very excited to be able to, through personal work and through professional work, to be able to support and advocate and just give voice to community and all the good providers that are out there. And of course, DDS, because the amazing work that DDS is really doing, the transparency and the leadership that they can't solve everything, but they're so open to hearing suggestions and hearing from their community. So I appreciate that.
Thank you, Adriana. Michael.
Hi, I'm Michael Beloff. I have one child, a 26-year-old with intellectual disabilities, and I guess what we're now calling level 2 autism. Ben has his first paying job, which he just got a few months ago. He also volunteers at Greenwich Hospital after doing a plastic surgery program there. We just got him on Uber in the literally last couple of weeks, and he's taken to it phenomenally because he loves license plates. And every day, a new car with a new license plate comes twice a day, back and forth. And it saved us so much time because we were doing 2 40-minute round trips twice a day, and it's been great. I got involved early. I've been on the ableist board for over 20 years, in the last 15 as treasurer, and they won't let me leave. So I think I'm there for life. And I joined the council a few months back, and I'm proud to represent Lower Fairfield County down here in the Greenwich Stamford area where I live. And I know it's been a while since there's been kind of representation from here, so I'm glad to do that. Professionally, I'm a financial advisor, and I have a specialty working with families with special needs children. And it's a large part of my practice, and I serve on the advisory board for the U.S. Autism Association. And I do try to do a lot of education for families on topics that I found of interest, and I think families will be. So I do workshops on what happens when you work and you're on benefits, and what's involved with being a trustee of a special needs trust, so families can do their appropriate planning.
Great. Thank you, Michael. And Damien, are you on?
I am on. Welcome to the new council members. I'm Damian Williams. I apologize if there's some background noise. I'm actually headed to see my son who's on the spectrum. Unfortunately I was away last weekend. My father passed away, so it actually conflicted with his birthday party. So I'm braving this Hartford traffic this evening, trying to make it to celebrate his birthday. Gonna have some cake and ice cream. I'm a very proud father, and I'm also the executive director and CFO of Futures. Pam has been my mentor for 16 years, and so I found myself in a wonderful place. At the time I came to be employed by Futures, I had no idea that my son was on the spectrum. So, it was a godsend for me. I found myself in the right place, and so, for me, I feel really privileged to be a part of this council. I'm relatively new, but I recognize that I'm among some real giants and trailblazers in this field, and so I feel really blessed. So it's a privilege to be a part of it. So that's me.
Thank you, Damien. A point of privilege, I'd like to have Rick Lenz introduce himself. He has just come off the council, but he'll always be part of our crew here. So Rick, as a retired council member, would you like to introduce yourself? Got to unmute.
Rick, you're still muted. Rick, you're muted.
Faye, go in
There-
the other
there
room
you
and
are.
tell Rick he's muted.
Nope,
Okay.
you're unmuted
You're not
now,
you're
Rick.
not
Go
muted
ahead.
now. Go ahead, Rick.
Okay, go ahead, Rick.
I'm live now, I think.
Yes.
I started out by saying I'm Rick Lenz, Faye Lenz's beloved husband. Like Adrian, I wondered how many years I've served on the council, and I happened to come across the document that put me on the council this morning, and it was October of 2014. So I'm just coming up on 10 years, which is mind-blowing. It's like everything else has gone by so quickly. But it's been a great pleasure being a member of the council. I've learned a lot about a lot of different aspects of what we focus on. And I feel good leaving knowing my beautiful wife is going to be on the council. She has so much experience with advocacy, development, and leadership. I think she'll be a terrific add to the council. So thank you all for your warm thoughts and warm goodbyes. I appreciate it very much.
Thank you, Rick.
Thank you, Rick.
don't believe that I missed any council members, did I? I can't see everybody and I don't know how to get into it. Like I said, I'm using my brother-in-law's
I think
computer.
you're good, Patty. You picked up Michael and Damien, which were the two that would be hardest probably for you to find, but I think we're good.
I'm afraid to touch anything here. So, all right. So now.
Oh, wait, Patty, wait.
Yes.
Lisa just joined. I don't know if you want to
Oh,
ask
yes.
Lisa to jump in real quick.
Lisa, if you're on and unmuted, we were just doing introductions.
Hello, can you hear me?
Hi.
Hey, it's Lisa Weisinger. I am a council member and I have a son who is, oh gosh, almost 30 with Down syndrome.
She leaves out that she's a physician, an advocate, an innovator, someone who spends their time in various places trying to help influence a positive direction. She left all of that out of her quick bio, but I think it's important for our new council members to know a little bit more about who Lisa is.
I appreciate that, Jordan, Commissioner.
Either's fine.
It's an honor to be on the committee, so thank you.
Thank you, Lisa. And now we have Shannon Giacovino. Where is she?
I'm right here. This is Shannon Giacovino. I'm the DDS Ombuds person. I know both Faye and Deidre. I met Deidre quite a few years ago when I was working at the ARC, and I've been always looking for the right place and time to reel her in. So I'm glad she's here. And then, for Faye and Rick, I just want to say to both of you all at once, as sad as I am to see Rick leave the council, I'm just as happy to see Faye coming. The two of you have been such incredible mentors to me. As an advocate, you really helped me to kind of stand down some of my rough edges over the years and learn how to, I think be a much more effective advocate and to prepare me for the role that I'm in. And so I just love you both to pieces and I'm so grateful to you. And, I think you know that. And I also wanted to say to Damien, I am so sorry about your dad. And to Lisa Rowland, that I cannot believe Jamie is 30. It's unbelievable to me. So thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Shannon.
Next we have Wes. Would you like to introduce yourself, Wes?
Of course. Thank you so much. Hello and good evening, everyone. My name is Wes. You'll get some emails from me with a much longer name. It's pronounced Wesani Tsegai. Just call me Wes, though. Don't worry about trying to pronounce my name, but I have been serving as the executive secretary to Commissioner Chef for a little over a year now, and I learned so much from this council and from all of you individually. Rick, especially, you've been such a great help to me in the past year, and I'm always happy to be here with you all. So if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out, and welcome to you new members.
Thank you, Wes. Kevin Bronson.
Hello, Kevin Bronson from DDS. I am the Communications Legislative and Regulations Director, and I'm here to help support the commissioner and fill in all the blanks, I guess, that need to be filled in. And that's it.
Thank you, Kevin. And Jordan, Commissioner.
Thank you. So for first to Damien, I'm sorry for your loss. Having been through that with my mom in the last couple of years, it's tough, and men aren't always good at finding help to talk through it. If I can be a shoulder or an ear, just reach out. It was hard for me. Yeah, absolutely. And to Rick, I don't know the council without Rick Lenz on it. I've been with the department about 11 years in its central office, or coming up on 12 years with the department in central office for over 10 years. So I only know council work with Rick Lenz. So I'm about to start a whole new chapter, but I'm sure you might be in the background as the beloved husband to Faye. And I look forward to your continued support and advocacy. I'm really happy about that. And Deidre, as you were talking, I recalled, because of the description of your career and your path, I remember better some of the conversations we've had in the past, and I look forward to becoming reacquainted. I have three daughters, 26, 22 plus, and 20. living down in Baltimore and Northern Virginia. My youngest 3 years ago, which is maybe a difference for some of you from when you first met me, developed a neurological disorder. Fall of her senior year of high school, will be celebrating, recognizing the 3-year anniversary of such a thing next week. She's expecting presents. So I guess it's a celebration of some sort. And she's doing, the council's been kind enough to indulge me and follow her journey. Most recently leaving my home in July following 6 weeks at a neuro rehab clinic in California. She is adjusting to life down in DC. Her sister and their other roommate are making it work. She's got a job about 30 hours a week as a registered behavior tech. She gives herself Wednesdays off to recover and rest into what she calls suppression breaks, so she can sort of let the FND out on Wednesdays after it's built up for a couple days, so she can be successful in her part-time work, and that seems to be working for her. And I've been in the field 36 years, and enjoying myself with this group and the work we do at DDS. And Deirdre, if you don't know Pam, she does not throw faint praise. So when she says that we're doing a good job, she means it. She'll also let me know when we're not doing a good job. So this is not a group of dedicated loyalists. This is a group that intends to help me shape the direction of the department and improve its performance. Even when it's good, there's always room for better. So just to give you some sort of insight there. And I think that's it for intros on my end. Thank you, Patty, for the opportunity.
Thank you, Jordan. Damien, I too would like to express my deepest sympathies and thank you so much for being here tonight. I really appreciate it, and I think that the council does as well. I know it's a difficult time, but we really appreciate your effort to be here. So, I also just wanted to mention very quickly that both myself and Faye will need to leave the meeting just a little bit before 6 because we have another meeting backed up to this. So Christine will be taking over from there. I think I had put that out into an email. And we will be leaving things in her very capable hands. So next on our agenda is the opportunity for public participation. Is there anybody from the public who would like to say a few words? Okay, there being none, we'll move ahead to the next agenda item, which basically with regard to the July meeting, the draft notes, the transcript, and the meeting recording. We are moving forward with our new layout where everything will be available on the DDS website. So Wes did put, that's a live link where it says meeting recording if you'd like to go visit it and watch it. And I don't know, Wes, were the draft notes up in the transcript? Had those made it to the website?
Yes, I can link those as well if people want the link.
Great. Okay. Thank you so much. So that's just where everything's going to be. Just wanted to remind everybody. So next on our agenda is the ombudsperson report. Shannon?
Hi, everyone. This is Shannon Giacovino, the DDS ombudsperson. I sent my report out yesterday. I did get a couple of questions. The first was from Christine, who wanted to know with regard to GT Independence, the new fiscal intermediary, whether or not I'm seeing common themes in from the families that are reaching out to me. And, Christine and I spoke today, and I think there have been some common themes throughout this process. I know that I don't know if they're continuing to meet daily, although I think they probably are, but I know DDS is meeting on a very regular basis with GT Independence to deal with these issues. The commissioner might want to talk about this more, but I also know that DDS has hired Deloitte, who worked very closely with DDS on the STEP initiative and did, in my opinion, a great job to help manage this transition. And the commissioner has also brought back Joe Caravallo to work with on constituent issues around GT independence. So I'm not aware day to day what the actual issues are, unless someone happens to reach out to me or I see it on social media. When someone reaches out to me, DDS has an internal escalation process to ensure that when I'm getting a complaint or someone else is, and it's a repeated issue, that it goes straight up to Krista and to Joe, so that it can be dealt with, I think, and made a priority to deal with directly. And so I think the commissioner and Kevin might be able to answer more questions about GT independence if you have more, but that's sort of the extent of my dealings. I don't get as many contacts as you might think, given what we know what's happening out there. And I think it's probably because the case managers are dealing with it pretty effectively and escalating things when they need to be escalated. So I could be wrong about that, but I'm not getting as many calls as you'd probably think I am. Adrian had also questioned, I had been previously in the various different areas, putting the number of calls I've gotten on particular issues. And I didn't do that in this report because I was doing 2 months and it just takes a lot of time. My preference moving forward would be to not continue to do things that way, but rather to kind of let you know about maybe trends that I'm seeing, because I think that was sort of the point of putting that down. And if you're interested in hearing about trends, I'm happy to share those with you. It's really time consuming for me to go through and do that on the report. And if we can try this for a couple of months and this sort of satisfies people, then we'll continue it. If not, we can go back to the old way. But I will say that the most concerning trend that I've seen over the past few months is that the number of people who are, going into the ER, either people who either live at home with their families or people who are living in group homes, who are having sort of severe behavioral issues, going into ERs. And in many cases, they're people who are not safe to return back home. And in many cases, the providers also don't feel that they're safe to return to their group home. And as Pam mentioned, and when she was talking about the situation with the person she's the guardian for, I cannot say enough how impressed I am with DDS and the regions in terms of their response. It is all hands on deck, and the regions are working very hard to try to find places for people to go that will keep them safe and get them the supports they need. But in many cases, I think it's getting harder to do that because there are fewer places in the system. And I also think that it's not happening quickly enough sometimes for the hospitals. And, one of my main concerns is that the hospitals have taken a very different tack, a much more aggressive approach with families when their loved ones are in the hospital. And it's caused a lot of it just adds so much stress to an already stressful and difficult situation, and fear on the parts of families. And I've talked to the commissioner about this. I've talked to the deputy commissioner about this. I know that they are looking into ways to try to build some capacity in the system. And again, I'll let the commissioner address those issues. But that really is, in addition to kind of the stuff that comes up, that would probably be my main concern right now. Two other things that I am working on very closely with DDS that are very important to me is the issue of the number of people who are with tracheotomies who are living at the hospital for special care. We have, I don't know what the most recent number is, but it's at least 15 people who are living at the hospital because we don't have any place for them to live in the community. The deputy commissioner has pulled together an internal group within the agency that includes nursing and people from the regions and the MFP case managers who are working with those people and myself to really kind of look at this issue and to determine, what needs to happen in every setting that DDS has to remove those obstacles and to make it possible for people to leave the hospital and live in the community. Because while they're getting medical care in the hospital, they aren't really having good lives. And for many of those people who are there long term, who are no longer on the waiver, they don't necessarily even get day supports anymore because the day supports have to be state funded. So they need to go to the region, every few months to request approval for day funding. And so there's very little enrichment and support in the hospital other than what they get from their families. And we need to change this. And I know that DDS is committed to doing that. And I appreciate that. The other issue is, individuals who have very intensive support needs, some of them medical like this, many of them behavioral, like the people who are, kind of showing up in the ERs right now. And how do we better meet the needs of those people so that we can not only keep them in the community, but we can help them to be able to access the services that are available to them, because in so many cases, even if they're in a program, their ability to participate and to get what we want them to get out of those programs is limited by the behaviors and the sort of lack of resources the providers have in being able to address that. And so those are sort of the ongoing meetings I'm having with DDS. And I do really appreciate the department's openness to not only respond to these issues, but to allow me to work with them to try to find solutions for people. So that's it. Anybody have any questions or comments? Adrian?
I couldn't figure out how to officially raise my hand. Adrian, thanks, Shannon. I hear you about, what I'm interested in is the trends, not the number. So that's really the most important thing. And boy, so in my work as a clinical social worker, because of my being such a public advocate, I get people who have these kiddos you're talking about who end up in the ER. So I'm familiar with more than a few families in the last year that have had quite a lot of struggles, and they're being told by their case managers, good case managers, there's no place for them. There's no CLAs for them. They're too severe. They don't have enough staff. And this is hard. These families are in dire need. And I'm going to go out on one of my little limbs and say, we have these regional centers that are handicapped accessible where there are potential for people to stay at least for a while until something better can be found. Because there's going to be a disaster in one of these families. I'm sorry to say that, but it's the edge. They're on the edge. And I'm not using names. I'm not using towns, but so it's something that.
So I'd like to say something about that, and I'm sure the commissioner will as well. But DDS has been opening public homes and programs to people who don't have anywhere else to go. And so I don't know that the regional centers are necessarily the appropriate place for people, but DDS, has made public openings available to people because everybody's needs need to be, I think, considered in those situations. And I am really, honestly, I have to be honest, I'm blown away by the work the regions do to
Good.
try to figure out
Yeah.
where to put someone, not just to keep them, but to help them to get what they need, which is really ultimately what we want. And so I see Nicole has her hand, and then Pam.
Shannon, thank you. I have to say, just this week, I have dealt with all three of those same issues with families that you identified. Actually, right before the council meeting, I was talking to a mother with a son, similar, a little bit less, behavioral than my son, but he's currently had to go through the ER. And one of the things that I think is the most challenging for kiddos with behavioral that I'm hearing of beyond just my own son is the appropriate staff knowing how to manage behaviors to de-escalate rather than escalate them by restraints or things that are really not effective. So I just wanted to say thank you for bringing that up, because it's really heavy. It's a heavy job that you're carrying, Shannon. And, I'm only seeing a small part of that working with families with these very significant needs, but I really appreciate what you do. And it is not an easy thing. I think this is very complex on many levels, but we've talked about it before, but I think we really need to look at behavioral experts that deal with this population and are able to help them progress with life skills and get out into the community and de-escalate the behaviors and manage the other complexities that go along with it. So yeah, thanks.
You're welcome. Pam?
Yeah, I think I'm going to present a different perspective. I think, there are programs, and in my situation, we have a very strong behavioral support system, but that she really needed, and UConn said she needs a med wash. She needs med adjustments. That's not something that we're in a position to be able to address. And yet UConn says, we're an acute facility. We're not gonna deal with this here. So, but who's gonna deal with it? Because nobody else wants to deal with it. I mean, Middlesex literally tried to put her in an Uber. And if I had just not paid attention to my phone, she would be in an Uber. And when the Uber didn't work, they told me they were going to put her in a taxi. And, I pushed back and said, you put her in a taxi and I'm going to file, an abuse and neglect claim against you. But I mean, it was a nightmare. And her issues are, having to address that sort of med wash issue and pharmaceutical adjustment, but there's no place for her to go. Despite having very strong capacity for behavioral supports and people that have been with her, for 15, 16, 18 years, she has a stable staff. So I think, I don't know where there's a place to address that aspect of services that, can't be addressed in the community without a psychiatrist.
Adrian?
Well, Adrian Benjamin again. Thanks, Shannon. That's good to hear. Obviously, I didn't know that, that there are people being placed in other DDS group home type places. I wanted to ask Jordan a question about this because several years ago, DDS got right on top of it and developed that stand down unit.
Step down.
Step down. Thank you. Yes.
Yep.
Good difference. Thank you. Could you let us know, is there a waiting list for that? Is there any chance to develop more of those kind of units that might help address these issues?
So Yeah, sure. I can do that now. The step down unit is a 6-bed, 5-bed optimally, up to 6-bed unit housed at the Hartford Regional Center. Its intent was to not have anyone stay there more than 6 months and that people only enter when we know that there's an agency welcoming at the other end. They have declined a very small number of individuals who they felt were beyond their ability, which says something about those individuals, and we come up with other solutions. As the workforce crisis has impacted the private provider network, assuring a transition out date has become more cumbersome. And what we are concerned about is that it will become a long-term placement facility as opposed to a short-term. When I say short-term, 6 months. So it's not like we're asking you to come for a week and send you back out. We are working within our current appropriation to develop a second step down unit. We have RFP'd out a step down unit for children because we are not well equipped to handle people under 21 on the grounds, just because it really, our age is really tilted in a different direction. Although most of the people through the step down unit have been in their 20s and 30s, and not in their 50s and 60s, like a lot of the people who live on the grounds there. Further, from the medical acuity side, we are about a week or two away from opening a, a medical respite unit on the grounds of Lower Fairfield. Because it's an ICF, we have to be, and as this is a public meeting, there's very specific language I can use for housing that there under the rules that are ICF, and I'm certain my staff have called it and made it function just the way the federal government would like. But I cannot recall what that terminology is. They will have capacity of up to 8 people, 6 longer term, and where we can support people with some of the trach and suction issues, as we do at one of the cottages on the grounds at Southbury. It requires either a physician's oversight or respiratory therapist's oversight, which makes it very, very hard to replicate in the private sector because you have to maintain one on staff to be able to provide that service. They don't have to be there 24/7, but they have to be, there's a large amount of supervision and training that goes into that. And Lisa and others who are more clinically knowledgeable than I am could probably explain more about why and how and what that would look like. But so, and then our public CLAs, just to backfill, as we get a lot of pressure from families, from hospitals, from the regional case managers who are advocating on the loved ones in behalfs, we have within our existing staffing where there have been vacancies made by people either moving out or by moving on, sadly. We have backfilled without adding any staff, individuals we felt we could best support. In public, we try and keep that on the lowdown, but since Shannon has offered it loudly, I'm kidding, Shannon, we're good. I don't know how, I was joking with Patty just this last week. I don't know how many people go back and watch these tapes, and I don't think that people who would worry about my utilization of public. There's no rule against it. I'm not breaking any rules. We don't like to be in competition with the private sector. We like to be in partnership with the private sector. And when we're continuing to keep the public footprint as big as we do, it ties up resources they can't get their hands on. So it's a delicate conversation for me in the provider community. And for some of the advocates, both within politics and outside of politics, who think public should go away because it's too expensive. Those of you who've been with me for 10 years are aware that public has saved me, saved the hospitals, saved the state, saved families more times than I have fingers and toes in 10 years, and double or triple that. And on Friday afternoon, when push comes to shove, as long as there are Friday afternoons and people can reach me, there will be public because that is my safety valve. I can't compel a provider to show up at a hospital at 4 o'clock, and I won't call out any particular hospital, but I can make public go get them. And we don't always, but sometimes we're 2 weeks, 2 months, 6 months into somebody's extended stay at a hospital, and it just reaches a point where it has to happen. And then we continue to try and move them to the private sector. And Shannon alluded to some other things we're doing specifically on that. And for those interested in more, I can't say a whole lot, but we'll be putting out an RFI, request for information, to see what we can get from in-state and out-of-state entities that might provide opportunities for us to better serve both of those challenging populations that are distinctly different.
Okay, so this is Christine, and I am now chairing the meeting. I guess for the recording's purposes, we should say that Patty and Faye have left, and Damien is no longer on the call for voting purposes either. So we're going to move forward. Does anybody else have any questions for Shannon? No? Okay, I guess Jordan, you ready for your report?
I think I am. Shannon stole a lot of my thunder, which is good because we don't. And Shannon, you don't need to be sorry about saying it. I just tend to be on the down low. One of those areas I don't like to draw a lot of attention because there's nothing wrong with it. And frankly, we have private providers who've asked us to turn to public when they can no longer support someone. So it depends on which provider I'm talking to on what day, whether I'm annoying or aggravating someone. But the decisions, and I said this for those who don't remember, we were getting pressure about using out-of-state places. And our friend at the Hartford Current, who has since passed, who used to do a number of articles, took the time to come and can you remind me his name, Shannon? I'm just spacing.
Josh Kovner.
Thank you. He was doing a story about the use of one of our Florida locations, and prior commissioners who swore they would never place anybody there again. And I told them I would never speak in absolutes about that. On any given day, we do one thing. I think the reason DDS does well right now is because we've really adopted a culture. We do one thing. We look at the person and we help make the best decision we can with them and their team on their behalf. And if some days that means shipping them out of state because that is the best resource we have available, then I'm going to use the best resource I have. I'm not going to cut off my nose to spite some individual with intellectual disabilities face, so to speak. And in the same light, I use public in the same way. It isn't, in terms of where we want to go directionally, isn't where I want to go, but it's better than going backwards, and it's better than someone being stuck and regressing because of our system's inability to respond to them. I would guess that I don't have the exact number, but somewhere in the last 6 months, in the last year, somewhere around a dozen, maybe 15 people have entered. Some of them have already left when we found a suitable setting. Some of them came because their healthcare needs were so complex. They required 24/7 nursing, and I, operating public, have more capacity for 24/7 nursing than most of the private sector does. Certainly the private sector has some homes that do that, but we don't have enough of that capacity. And so that someone doesn't have to die in a nursing home or a long-term care facility with people who don't know anything about IDD, we let them pass with grace in our public community. When that seems like when the best decision I have that day is to make that decision. So I just wanted to go through a couple things. In addition to that aspect of public, I went touring a number of places this week and met direct support professionals in Lower Fairfield, at Hartford Regional Center from all over the state, and Elisa visited at Torrington, our Northwest Center. It was Direct Support Professional Appreciation Week, and we showed that in all sorts of ways. And it was really nice events. And I'm very glad I got to get out there. And I think it was very well received by direct care staff. Shannon did mention that Joe Carvalho has come back in the position of senior policy advisor to the commissioner, having served in the same capacity for the lieutenant governor's time. So we are very grateful. He has worked and taken over from Krista and many others who are piecing together the work on the GTI struggle. Gives it a single location. He's working with the SD directors, self-determination directors, and others. He's personally meeting with some of the families adversely affected, and ensuring on a daily basis that the company we've contracted with is trying to address any open concerns with a number of those families. We will move him on to a number of other areas in time, but right now that's nearly a full-time body of work just trying to get that transition right. Another hire for us is a woman named Carrie Fillick. Carrie has been in a variety of capacities at DSS. Many of you will remember Robin Wood, who worked for the department in a position Terry Macy created, a family support strategies person. I think I have a director of family support strategies. And she has started with us. She'll be overseeing a number of people that would have reported to Robin or Ken, were they still here. Patricia Simbala in our who heads our assistive technology unit, Elba Cayabaro, who is our housing director, and Amber, and it's no longer Amber Carter. You met her as Amber Carter, and I'm forgetting her current last name, and I apologize to you, Amber, wherever you are. Amber Burke. I'm having a tough time with names today, Shannon. Kevin's been helping me quietly in the background too through tech, so I appreciate you both supporting me on as my memories are a little shot. We're very excited for her to come aboard. In addition to having overseen and run a number of programs and been involved with a lot of work there, she has a lot of real good insight into the way DSS operates, like Krista. And will help us figure out where we need to interface on some of the issues we struggle with. I imagine she and Shannon will get to spend a lot of time together on constituent issues, as Shannon has graciously expanded the role from ombudsperson to ombudsperson and willing volunteer to problem solve. That was a lot of the work that Robin got invested in, and I think that the two of them together, working on some of these constituent issues from a couple different perspectives, will be really helpful to some of our families who are struggling to figure out where they fit in the DDS system, akin to all the challenges Nicole and Pam and Adrian and others have brought forward today. We have all sorts of unique situations, and so that'll be really helpful. We're very excited. She's joined the team. I have my notes here. And then, so lastly, in terms of the last couple months, I was able to attend, I think in August, the HCBS conference, Home and Community-Based Services Conference. So I have reported to you about my involvement at NASDS, which is my national trade organization, which this group, Advancing States, which brings federal partners to the table for an annual conference, is a little bit broader to all of the long-term support services that are out there, not just IDD focused. So aging, nursing homes, brain injury, mental health, all of the potential Medicaid funded services. So it's a much bigger conference. We were presenting on our work with Pulse Light and Aura, the critical incident detection system that we're expanding to do a whole lot of other things that we have tentatively talked about an October presentation date for you. So next month's council, looking to see still if Josh can pull that off and identify what would be in the presentation and how we might do that. So it was very interesting to be there, and I wanted to sort of close with that. So I'm not as well known at HCBS or Advancing States because this is my first time ever going there. It's my first time ever going there. I cannot tell you how many people, and I know this doesn't help you with the frustrations you face with the challenges in the Connecticut system. Can't tell you how many times we were approached by people who I had never met before, who heard about the work we're doing here in Connecticut and wanted our help with complex medical health, complex behavioral health, establishing supportive housing, use of assistive technology, critical incident detection. we were represented by workforce issues. We were represented by myself, Josh Scalora, Mary Pat DiCarlo, and Ivana. I'm just all over the place with last names. It'll come to me. So we were well represented, and it was terrific to be there with them. At times, we go there looking to learn some things, and we certainly learned a lot of threads to pull at to help us move the system forward. It's both humbling, flattering, and concerning that so many people come looking to us for answers when we ourselves are looking for answers. So Yvonne Pantoja, I know that name. It's just been a bad day for last names, Kevin. So I wanted to say it was terrific to be there. I don't know that I will return next year. I went by invite at their request this year to talk about this. It was actually a condition of Pulse Lights presenting their material was only if Josh and I would come and talk about it. So we did. We think it's that important. But I do think if we're financially able, I think there's benefit in sending 4 or 5 staff. There are 8 sessions going on every hour to 2 hours from 8 in the morning until 8 at night. It's the busiest conference I've ever seen for in the Medicaid space. It's bigger than the National Association of Medicaid Directors conference, which I've been to, and it's bigger than the NASD's conference. So it's pretty cool. And I said Medicaid directors. I should also let you know, many of you who've been part of watching testimony from both DSS and DDS and who have taken interest in the Medicaid space may recall a woman named Kate McAvoy, who had been our state Medicaid director and is now president of the National Association of Medicaid Directors. And her passion is really in the elder space, and she spends a lot of her time there, but she looks to us for help with any number of things as well. She left a few years ago, and we had a gentleman who had filled her role for a bit and then chose to leave. His name was Guy Woolston, got his last name. And the state just recently announced that Bill Halsey has been appointed state Medicaid director. He's a long-term DSS employee. He is a lovely man, a gentle soul, kind, warm-hearted, open-minded individual. And I think as terrific as Kate was, it would be very hard to find a replacement for her that would bring me such joy. And Bill does that. I'm really looking forward to our partnership with Bill as the state Medicaid director. So when you get a chance to watch testimony this year, he's terrific and wonderful, and already working with me on a number of things. And was great because he could hit the ground running. I am very open to questions. I sort of meandered and rambled, but I'm happy to take questions on anything you were curious about I didn't mention or anything else going on. I'm very happy to hear none. It's close to dinner time here at this house.
Wow, I don't see any hands, but I can't see everybody all at once. So if I'm missing anyone, please let me know.
I don't see any hands up, and I can see everybody on my screen. So I think you're good.
Thank you for the assist. I'm supposed to be in the other meeting. The other ladies went too. So so let's go on to the discussion of bylaws. And before we get into the bylaw change, I just would like to clarify something with Kevin and with, I believe, Diana is going to speak to it. Do we need to make a motion first to be able to discuss them? Motion to adopt them before we discuss them? I know we can't vote on it until October. It's got to be a certain time period to reflect on it, but.
Yeah, Kevin Bronson, DDS. No, I think you could have a discussion today, and then the motion is next meeting.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. So let's go ahead. Diana, do you want to present this, or Kevin?
Am I on?
Yeah, you are.
I am. Okay. Well, Patty and I met a couple of times and made some suggestions and sent them on to Kevin and Jill, who made some suggestions. Everybody should have gotten a copy of the proposed revisions from Patty on September 3rd. So if you had a chance to review them, if not, I have a copy in front of me and the bylaws amended by the Connecticut State, I think it's called the Connecticut General Statutes, Kevin? 1-225 and 1-225A for public meetings and meetings now that are electronic rather than in person. So that's where some of our revisions happened. Under Article 5, Meetings of the Council, number 9, we have revised that to be any meeting may be held remotely through conference call, video conference, or other technology at the discretion of the chairperson or vice chairperson. Because in the past, we all met in Hartford or at maybe in Meriden, at a regional center or other places in person, and it was rare that we weren't all together. But once in a while, somebody had to call in. But now we're all virtual or calling in. So that was one. Another one was under the meeting policies, excuse me, interaction with regional advisory and planning councils for the new members. There are other councils in the state, in the different regions, and we do meet with them at least once a year. So it's important that they get to see our minutes and get to be part of our meetings. So the revision is under 4A, the minutes and any other necessary recordings or transcriptions of the Council of Developmental Services meetings and the Regional Advisory and Planning Council's meetings shall be available on the DDS website. And then under that same number 4 of interaction with regional advisories, the location of meetings has been revised to say meetings of the council shall follow the requirements outlined in sections 1-225 and 1-225A. I think those were the revisions, Kevin, if I'm not mistaken. And then the dates to be written at the bottom as far as when we're discussing it, when we're bringing it up for vote, and when it's passed will be added to the bottom. Do you want to clarify anything that I said, Kevin?
Kevin Bronson, DDS. No, I think you covered most of it. I think just to briefly re-describe it, I guess you could say, is a lot of since the last time the bylaws were touched, a lot of things have obviously happened for statute. The pandemic happened. Laws were passed that allowed boards and commissions to do a variety of different things, let's say, around electronic meeting and notices and that sort of stuff. So it's more just conforming the bylaws to the new statutes is probably the easiest way to say it. We didn't really take too much out of it or change too much. A lot of the issues that people were having were solved by just referencing different statutes, which is, as Diana said, 1-225 and 1-225A, which is mostly around meetings and the use of electronic equipment to hold meetings. And that's about it. I'll stop there.
Okay, Christine Hainsworth Strauss. I just want to call everyone's attention that we're coming close to a minimal quorum. So if anybody else is going to leave prior to the end of the meeting, please let me know so I can count heads again before vote. That would be helpful. So it sounds as if they are mostly, I would say, house cleaning kind of tasks and like making this match what we are current practices and what current legislative practices would be. So does anybody have a question about? Okay, I see Adrian has number 2, but I don't know. Adrian, go ahead.
You were number 1.
Yeah, I just saw that now on mine. Sorry.
Adrian, just I'm not sure how I missed it, but I can't find the September 3rd email from Patty. So I don't know if other people saw it, but I get so much email, it's absurd. So it's probably my fault. But anyway, would you all mind sending it out again? Because I have not even, I appreciate y'all going over it, but I hadn't even seen it. So
Wes, are you able to recirculate that currently, or Diana? Can one of you just?
I
I
can
have it. I could forward it.
I can
Thank you.
forward it. It's also attached in the chat if you can view it. If
Okay.
anybody wants a copy.
Can you email it just so it makes sure that it doesn't disappear when the chat
yeah, the
disappears?
chat disappeared.
Yes, of course.
Thank you so very much.
Thank you.
Okay. Are we done with that? Does anybody else have any questions before I move on? Not seeing any. Okay.
Thank
Adrian,
you, Kevin, for all your help.
well, I want to thank all three of you for going through this because it was not time consuming. So, okay. So Adrian, would you like to talk about Autism Cares Act? Sorry.
Right. Okay. Adrian Benjamin. Some of you might be aware that there is an act that was approved 5 years ago called the Autism Cares Act, and it is expiring. And in order for it to be reauthorized, it has to be reauthorized by September 30th. And if it is not reauthorized by September 30th, which is what, 10 days, it actually goes into something called sunset and won't be looked at for 5 more years. That doesn't make sense to me, but that's okay. So it's a federal bill, and it's really about the whole spectrum of autism research, resources, and it's been it's the most important bill at this stage for people on the autistic spectrum. Good news, last night the House passed it with a very large support vote. Now it goes to the Senate. And we have 2 senators who I suspect are supportive of it, but they're very busy people, and it wouldn't hurt to give a quick call or email to Senator Blumenthal, Senator Murphy, and say, please, 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 before September 30th, get this done, because otherwise it goes into the 5-year sunset. Makes no sense to me, but that's the fact. I will tell you that there was a lot of advocacy around the language in the Autism Cares Act because and some of us will go, oh, of course. There was a lack of attention to people on the more profound end of the spectrum. And obviously people like that can't advocate for themselves, but the advocacy groups did a really good job. The House bill has more specific language about the behavioral and co-occurring medical conditions that occur with profound autism. The Senate bill is not as robust. So I would, if you have a chance to email or whatever, call, leave a message, that they hopefully adopt more of the House bill than the Senate bill. As long as something's adopted, that's really the most important thing. But I think the House bill really does have more specifics about those issues and doesn't neglect any other part of the spectrum. So that's my pitch here, and I'm not suggesting, given the reality that we work on a letter to send because this has to be done in 10 days. Let's just, as individuals, we can identify ourselves as part of this part of this group. And that's my comment. Thank you.
Nicole?
And I just wanted to add to Adrian, I think the biggest issue with that bill is that there's only been, with all of the money nationally for autism, only 6% has been dedicated to the more profound group with higher level of needs, which is a serious issue because then the states don't really know how to properly meet this population's needs without that research being able to back, being able to provide solutions. So that's why this is so vital and really critical.
Christine Haynes-Strauss again. Anybody else have any other comments or issues? Because I do. And Jordan, you may want to chime in here. This issue, and Patty and I were talking about just generally before the meeting about the agenda, it kind of raised a bunch of questions to me, and that was, and now we have a new DSS director of I'm sorry, not Social Security. What did you?
Medicaid.
Thank you. Thank you. It's these issues that impact our community that are on the federal level, but they impact how our state agencies comply or implement them. And I'm wondering what our role is as a council for the state in advocating this so it makes it easier for the state agencies to do this. So is that a topic for a future conversation, perhaps? Jordan? Please.
So if I may, the council had invited previously a gentleman named Dan Burland, who is the federal policy director at NASD's, and he came and talked to us. I think Rick Rothstein was looking for insight into one of the wage bills that was going to roll, or elimination of wait lists. There was some issue that was getting some traction before COVID or during COVID that Rick was passionate about. So we brought Dan in. The state, the governor also employs a gentleman named Dan DeSimone. So you don't have to be named Dan to be a liaison at the federal level, but apparently it helps. Dan DeSimone actually is full-time for Connecticut. We're looking at what's happening at the federal level and how it may impact all of the states. So it's not just Medicaid, it's not just environmental, it's not just labor, it's the whole thing. And he's the governor's right hand to his involvement through the National Governors Association. It may be timely, although he may not be able to until after the election, but he may be able to spend a council meeting with us to tell you what his work is. And I think he's best suited to answer that specific question in terms of, and I think that Jill and Kevin can research, go back to the bylaws and the statutes that describe your role. I don't think there's anything in there that prohibits you as a group for, if you were to vote to do so, collectively voice support or interest in a particular bill. But I would want to double check with the guy who helps us ensure that what's happening at the federal level, as best as he's able, is good for us. So maybe we can do some of that work offline and get back to you on that specific question. It's a great point, though. We often wonder collectively what's within our scope and what's without. Where is it permissive? Where is it restrictive? So I appreciate you raising, Adrian, Nicole, the awareness around the Autism Cares Act, ACA, the other ACA, and Christine, your question as to how we might support or otherwise advocate around federal legislation.
Thank you. So do you think you might have information for the next meeting?
Kevin, can you help me with that?
Yes. Yeah, Kevin Bronson, DDS. Sorry. Yes, I was scribbling down a note. So
thanks. Yeah, I knew you were. I just wanted to make sure.
Thank you. It'd be great to get some, boundaries and guidance would be fantastic. So, okay. I guess we're up to that. Yes. Yes.
Adrian has her hand up, and I have one other comment before you close out, if I may. But go ahead, Adrian.
Adrian, please.
Thank you, Adrian, again. Just to be clear, I'm not suggesting as a group we vote on this. There's no time, and obviously there's the question of, is that in our jurisdiction? But just as individual people, if you think this is important, know about it. There's only 10 days. I think it'd be great. That's just my push here. So not trying to break any rules. Not this time.
No, Christine, I think you were trying to. I just wanted, I think, it spills over into the security limitations that deal with DSS and the waivers.
Sure.
It's just all these other federal issues that do pour into other state agencies and slow things down and cause problems for the case managers, et cetera. So if we can get some of these major roadblocks out of the way or make them less hurdle, yay, right? Okay, is there anybody else? I see a view all hand, but I can't tell. Is that
It's Deidre.
Sorry, Deidre.
You're muted, my friend.
I wanted to follow up on what Adrian said. So if I'm happy to send an email to Murphy and Blumenthal, but I didn't know, do I identify myself as being a member of the Council on Developmental Services, or is it better not to say that? In support of this, the Autism Cares Act.
I'll answer. I think that that was what Christine was wanting to sort of ferret out. Given the time frame Adrian is talking about, I think it's best, at least in the interim, to not identify that way. But if you have interest in supporting the bill, you have a short window to do that. And in the meantime, Kevin will help us research a little bit the best way individually as council members and collectively as council members to do advocacy at that level. Is
Okay, thank you.
that fair?
I just want to clarify that. That's all. Thank you so much.
Yeah, Kevin Bronson, DDS. Just to add to that, I think it's more about DJ. It's more about you can do whatever you want in your own personal life and say that you're a council member, right? But it's written as you personally, not as you as a council member. If that, I know it's kind of confusing, but I hope it makes sense.
It makes sense.
Yeah. And I'll look for the rest, and I'll just confirm that, like I said.
And thank you, Kevin, for researching that and getting back to us. Because I think we all want to keep advocating as much as possible for whatever else interrupts our lives. So, yep. Sorry, Jordan, did you have something?
Yeah, I just wanted to say, and a number of you, Christine in particular, are very faithful to the rules. I am probably the weakest at the rule, but with new members on the council, one of the rules for virtual meetings, because people may be listening to it and not watching it, and they're not in our presence, is we're supposed to, when we come on, say Jordan Chef Commissioner or Christine Ainsworth Strauss Council Member, and we didn't go over that rule with some of the new members over time, and we've gotten a little more lax. And again, I don't think the statute police are going to hunt us down for those violations. But as we're continuing our work and changing who we are as a group, I thought I would throw that out there. Kevin's usually really good about that reminder, but we've been a little a lot of talking tonight and rubbing elbows and doing that, which has been very nice. But I just wanted to call attention to that. That's all.
Thank you, Jordan. And Deidre, are you a residual hand or is it a current hand?
That was my old hand. I mean, I'd raised my hand before, so it just, I can take that off now.
Yes, please.
We can.
Okay.
Thank you. So it looks as though we're on to topics for future meetings, our last item. And it looks as though you're still researching the pulse light demonstration. Is that correct, Jordan?
Yeah, Jordan Chef Commissioner. I believe that Wes was talking with Josh today about scheduling our time with Pulse Light next week, which is getting us closer to October. But I will talk with Josh then and get you a firm answer. He was excited about the opportunity. It was just a matter of the obstacle of de-identifying the data so that we don't violate HIPAA in showing you the power of the tool. Because I don't think having him come in and just showing pictures of the tool that are static in a PowerPoint will leave the impression I'm hoping to make on you in terms of why we've invested so much time and talent into this. So I will confirm, Christine. Wes and I will work on that when we talk with Josh next week. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Christine Haynes-Strauss. Thanks, Jordan. Also, I think the November meeting for the new members, that is usually with the RACs, or is it by statute that it's with the RACs? So I don't know. We won't be having a separate presentation at that time. So is there anybody else that feels another issue? Oh, yes, Jordan.
Jordan Chef Commissioner. So we need to get to scheduling that pretty quick. They don't meet at the same cadence we do. And there were a few people who felt it was too last minute for them to participate. That's on my end. And also the regional directors were. So I just want to make sure that we pick a date sooner rather than later. Because third Thursday will also be Thanksgiving.
So our regular date, and I don't have it in front of me.
Or is it fourth Thursday?
That's, oh boy. I guess that's I don't know.
So Wes and I are in the office tomorrow. Let us look at the calendar, and if our natural night works, could I ask the council if they're okay with using our regularly scheduled meeting to invite the RACs to, and then we can get that announcement out really quick so we can get as robust an attendance as possible. Is that okay, Christine?
Yes, I think that we should do that. And typically we have done that, or often we have done that where they are back to back since we've been on Zoom. So they tend to excuse themselves or stay on as the public. And we just continue our meeting. So that would be great, Jordan. Thank you. Okay, so is there any other, I know we have a list of continuing discussion items that we want to have as presentations. Do we want to have a backup one, Jordan, just in case? I've lost
Sorry about
Jordan.
that. No, that's Jordan, Chef Commissioner. I don't. We could. Let me think about that. Let me talk with. Let me see if, because I don't want to put a lot of energy into that right now. If Josh commits to doing it in October, then I don't have to stress about that. If not, I will work with Elisa and Katie and Kevin to come up with. We have some running lists of things that we think would be beneficial.
And a lot of departmental, so that would be, or interdepartmental.
And then, so we often, going back to the semi-annual RAC meeting, one of the things that I typically do at that is review the wait list with you all. And we just published our latest management information report today. I haven't had a chance to look at it, but that's another place where Josh spends his time. Josh Scalora he oversees the development of that on a quarterly basis. And so we could probably, let me think about where that fits in terms of guests, because I think that report, which we finally refer to, Deirdre, is the MIR, the Management Information Report, has a ton of information we publish quarterly, but it takes a little training or walkthrough to really figure out where you might find value in it, because it's just so robust. But I don't know the last time we walked through the MIR together in its totality. I think we've really just looked at the wait list when we do the semi-annual RAC council joint meeting. But that would be another thing, because a lot of times I get questions from folks, and the answers that I provide you come right out of that report. And if we familiarized you all with that, you might be able to find them at your leisure. And not that I mind finding them for you, but you may find even other information in there that you find helpful.
And I'm sorry, Jordan, did you give a timeline for that?
Well, we're gonna. No. So we're going to go over, because of the meeting, we're going to go over the wait list specifically in November. That's the charge. And it's too much information for that size group to really do a walkthrough in the time frame that we have. So maybe perhaps this winter, January, February, if we don't have other speakers lined up, Josh could also come and present and do it and show off a couple of his staff who are just brilliant. Julia Walsh is our data person. She's just ridiculous. Because while we publish it, it may not be useful to you. It may only be useful to us, but because it's public facing, we would like it to be useful. So your feedback on it might also be helpful.
Thank you very much. Thank you for the clarification. Will this year's report reflect the kind of shifts that go on, where so many people go in or out of housing?
The wait list is a slice in time report of where people are. We don't show discharge, transfers, and admissions separately, but what you can see is, well, and I haven't looked at it. What we may see is a reduction in wait list numbers, but the more we reduce the wait list, the more people become aware that we have services to provide, the more people get on the wait list.
And they come on.
We call that a woodworking effect. They come out of the woodwork when we start to hand out funding.
Well, that's why I was trying to understand if we could get
always the best indicator of how much work we've done in placing people.
And I guess that's why I'd like to acknowledge that the department has moved certain people off of the wait list. So many people have come off and so many new people have come on. If there's a way to somehow to note that, I think you deserve the credit for that. So it'd be good to acknowledge that and see that number. Okay, well, is there any other business? If not, I think we're ready to.
Christine, I had my hand up.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
That's all right. So Kevin Zingler, council member, I have a couple items that I'd like to just throw out to the council for future discussion, or at least get feedback from the commissioner and his staff about maybe next steps on them. The first one is assisted technology. I know the DDS has now a established division. There's a person who is the division department head who's been there for a while, and now I believe there's 4 new people that have joined that division. So it'd be great to know what that division's charge is, where they're going with assistive technology, maybe do a presentation, maybe how assistive technology is working out in the community or what services have been provided, et cetera, et cetera. I think that'd be helpful for folks to know the direction of the department with assistive technology. Staying on that same vein, the second item that I'd like to maybe throw out there is where is AI in helping states and also providers provide services to people with intellectual disabilities? So artificial intelligence, it's coming, it's going to be here, and either you're on the train or you're going to get off the train, and the train's going to go by you. So trying to figure out where AI lies within not only the state, but maybe through the professional organizations that Jordan's a part of, the ARC, et cetera, et cetera. Are there experts in the field that could help the state and also providers with those data crunching or automation of tasks that maybe could free up DSP resources to provide more services to individuals? Just a thought, but I know it's something that several providers in the ARC community are talking about in terms of when we go to conferences. Where's AI and what can it do to help us automate mundane tasks that maybe can be eliminated from DSP workloads so that we can provide more hands-on care support instead of being in front of a laptop doing service notes all day long. So just thoughts, but
those are both two very good subjects in my opinion. So thank you very much, Kevin, for bringing it to our attention. Okay, I think Adrian, do you have like a hand up, or is that Legacy?
Yeah, I'm sorry to keep going on and on.
No, I just can't tell. I'm sorry. I have to do it.
This will show how long I've been on the council. Back in the day, before COVID, we went on some field trips. We went on a field trip to, oh my goodness. We went on a field trip to several different locations, including Kevin Zingler's wonderful agency in Manchester. And I think COVID is around, but not is anyway. It would just be interesting to think about doing that again. We went to see the Hospital for Special Care's new autism unit. We went to some of us went to the Lower Fairfield Regional Center, and it's getting out there into the world of the reality of all the different versions of DDS. And I think it would be great to think about doing some version of that again. No specifics idea, but it just occurred to me we haven't done that in a couple of years because of COVID, but maybe we can do that again and learn more about the parts of DDS that we aren't personally involved with, but that are really important. That's all. Bye. Thank you.
Thank you, Adrienne. And yes, it's, we haven't met in person either, which would be a lovely situation too.
Maybe we can put all the pressure on Deirdre so that we can get to play with water chicken seals and belugas.
Mm-hmm.
I like it.
Aren't there some emperor penguins there too? And wonderful.
Yeah, we call penguins water chickens in our house. So I think it's the best description of them. My daughter came up with it.
Smaller ones. I didn't realize those were. Yeah. Okay. And Deidre, did you have a hand?
I had my hand raised. Sorry.
Sorry.
Yeah. So I know we were talking about the mirror, but I do want to just point out, because people get very focused on the waiting list, that there aren't waiting lists for all DDS residential supports. So I think it's really important, especially for the council, to understand that. And, while the waiting list is important because some people really do want or need a group home, there are not waiting lists for all residential supports. And so people do have access to residential supports. Important distinction.
Can those be highlighted in the report? I mean, those
community, we can talk about them when we review them, but community companion homes and certain amounts of in-home support are being routinely funded by us upon request currently. And again, we say that the quiet stuff out loud too loud, we'll run out of money real quick, and we're trying to prioritize it. But we have, I think it's 4 years now, we have not denied any request for a CCH placement. And we've also been placing people without a legislative initiative with regards to aging caregivers, although we attenuate what that age is based upon our appropriation. So we used to look at 70. I think this year we did 66. If you were 66 or older, we would take you off the wait list and give you funding. And I'd have to check where those are. That would be a really good, maybe Elisa can come because she helps the regions define their priorities with each year's appropriation. And she has a lot of insight into our initiatives and what we're funding and what we're not. And it would be good to get her in front of you again as well. Elisa Villardo, Deputy Commissioner.
Thank you. It's Christine Hazer. I think Michael has his hand up.
Yes, Michael Beloff, council member. And I want to say, I didn't hear us talking about it, but the presentations on shared living, which I just heard about yesterday at a Star Housing forum from Elba, I think I'm very interested in hearing with. But it wouldn't be a council meeting if I didn't ask about my own little pet cause, which is transportation and Uber funding through GTI. And as a reminder, I think there's still the kludge of parents having to be vendors in order to get reimbursements for Uber spending. And I know that there's been challenges with GTI, and this may not be their priority. And certainly making sure that self-directed staff are paid through GTI correctly, which is a big thing, is first. But I'm wondering if there is an update as to time frame to the debit card solution that GTI was going to come up with for properly funding reimbursements for Uber for transportation.
Kevin, Wes, and I will get an answer tomorrow on what the status and email it to the council. I just don't know it off the top of my head, Michael. I know there has been minimally conversation and I think a commitment made for a timeline, but I don't recall. So we'll get that back out to you. And I appreciate you ringing that bell as often as you do. There's 3 things I have to do: give people a place to live, a place to work, and how to get them back and forth. My job's really simple, and we've been fighting about transportation for 40 years. So I appreciate you reminding me of that. Thank you.
And on the subject of transportation, before we go on to the next hand, I just want to mention, as member of the council who's supposed to attend the transportation subcommittee meetings, they have not met. It's been nearly a year that they have canceled their meetings, and I'm going to be following up more thoroughly on that. They apparently did hire some kind of subcontractor to evaluate some issues, or at least frame the issues, but that has not yet been done or announced, and they just canceled this week's meeting again. So needless to say, this is not serving our population. So I will be hopefully having some more information for you next month. And Deidre, I think your hand is next.
Yep, Deidre Toole, council member. I just wanted to follow up on what Jordan just said about, live, work, and, get people back and forth. But I also want to add, I know DDS in the past also talked about live, working, and playing. And I think the playing part is a really weak area in our area because, you're talking about that Uber. I'm so excited to hear about that because in Mystic, transportation is a huge issue. At night, there's no nighttime transportation or weekends are limited, our HOP system, which is great. But nights, you can't go out and play. So a lot of my individuals are home with their parents. They don't have the parents might be tired. They just can't get out and play. The second thing I wanted to follow up on is the Mystic Aquarium. I would love to meet you all in person. I do think it's very powerful, this world of Zoom that we live in and Teams and all that. It's a really difficult thing to just see people on the screen. And even just to meet once a year, to get this group together, I think would be really great. And on behalf of the aquarium, one of the perks of getting, when they created this new position for me to work with adults with disabilities and volunteering, is they said, you can use our aquarium for anything you want. And they would support having us all there as a team. And I think there would be some perks involved. I'm sure they would be happy. The aquarium also is a really great model. I'd love for you to see what they are doing for individuals with disabilities. And they're really thinking outside the box and creating programs that I think are really incredible. So if you ever want to come to the aquarium, I promise that I will do my best to make sure it's a great experience. And I don't know if we can all Uber there, but we can.
So
not on our budget.
First, I appreciate that. I was really in jest just because you were the new person putting the burden on you. And to Shannon's point, for her birthday one year, I paid for my wife to swim with the belugas, which is really not swimming, but she gets to go in the beluga tank and touch belugas and feed them, and it's really pretty cool. But I also just wanted to say, absolutely, when I talk about where you live, I mean a bigger version of live, but play is certainly within that and super important, which is why we work with providers to develop rec calendars and things like that. But I appreciate you raising that, Deidre.
And I just want to mention, it's Christine again, Hainsworth Strauss. I do want to mention that if you did not know, Deidre, there is now Uber training that's available through, once your budget's approved for it, for working with the Kennedy Collective. they have trainers to train individuals on how to use Uber. Okay. I think Kevin Bronson, you're next.
Yeah, Kevin Bronson, DDS. I just wanted to comment, Christine, on the transportation thing.
Yes.
I want to say that they started meeting again and like they had a meeting, one meeting, but I'll check with Mary Pat, who's our transportation person, and have her connect with you to see if for some reason you might have gotten dropped off, or maybe I was just under a different impression that they started meeting but didn't.
They
So
said they were gonna meet again, and then they didn't, and then they canceled the next two meetings. So
This isn't the internal DDS transportation. This
No,
is
this
No.
is the
okay.
this is
Okay,
the
I just wanted to make sure you knew that.
yeah, this is
And
the
yes,
one
Mary
that's run by DOT, and they hired a it's everything that Christine said. It's just that
Yeah, it's out of
once she
5,001.
talked about it, it pinged my head, and I go, I feel like there was some meeting, so I'll check, Christine, and
I
I'll
would love
have
to
Mary
hear it.
Pat circle back with you.
And she was there. That's when I first saw her on the Brady Bunch Square. So that was our first meeting together. And so yes, I would love to hear more. If I'm missing something, I would love to know it. And they did send a shot across the bow saying they were going to be meeting, and then they didn't meet. So I appreciate your details for that. Does anybody else have anything else they'd like to raise, or any hand I have not seen? Seeing none, shall I entertain a motion for adjournment?
Make a motion. This is Kevin Zingler. Make a motion to adjourn.
A
I second it.
I'm sorry, who's that? I can't see.
Pam
Sorry.
Donahue. Pam
Oh,
Donahue,
Pam.
second.
Thank you, Pam.
Just for Wes's purposes, we should say who's firsting and seconding, so it can go in the
And
official
I
part of the
noticed
record.
we have a motion before us, and I really shouldn't do this, but I'm going to say one of the things that both Patty and I have issues in caring for our family. So meeting times or need lead time to find assistance with that. But perhaps one of the things we need to discuss is a time for that as well. Like, could we meet later so we can shift off with spouses? Okay, so all those in favor?
Aye.
We are adjourned. Thank you very
everyone.
much. See you guys
Have a great evening.
the next meeting. Bye-bye.